What's up guys, it's Nick2 and today I'm going to be showing you guys what I think is the absolute best Trickster build out there at the moment, and I'm actually really confident in saying that because I've tested heaps of variations with this build and honestly nothing even comes close to performing as well as this version does. As you can see, even after all the nerfs that Trickster got hit pretty hard by it, we're able to completely demolish CT15s, even doing maps like Boomtown in under 5 minutes. Gameplay of that will be at the end of the video, but you can also check me out on Twitch if you're interested in seeing more gameplay. This build is honestly a bit difficult to set up because it's reliant on multiple legendaries. My goal with making this video is pretty much to show you guys what's possible once you have nearly perfect gear like I do. But at the same time, I am going to be doing my best to be thorough, so even if you don't have all the legendaries required for my build, you still have other options so you can be successful in the meantime. As a result, this video may be a little bit long, and I apologize for that, but it's only because I want to ensure that you guys are able to create a really solid Trickster build without having every single item that I have and without experiencing grief not being able to do CT15s. I want you guys to be able to have success, so we're going to be going over multiple versions of the build. Before we get into the build, I want to mention that for a limited time, you guys can get 30% off any purchase over at advanced.gg using code NICK230 up until April 16th. So if you guys are looking for something to help give you a ton of energy and focus for peak performance so you can farm this build for 24 hours in a row like I did, without sacrificing all of your health goals, I'd highly recommend checking them out, as their nootropic formulas not only help get rid of those jitter, crashes, and other unwanted side effects of having energy drinks, but it also tastes great and won't make you feel like you're just chugging down straight sugar. So if you're interested, please make sure to use code NICK230 at checkout, as it's going to give you 30% off, helps support me a ton, and helps you just get an insane discount on a fantastic product. Link will be in the description, but with that out of the way, let's just get right into the build. Also, one quick thing before we actually get into it. Sorry, I know it's taking forever, sorry. One more thing. 86% of you guys aren't subscribed, and my overall goal on YouTube was to hit 100k. We're really close. If you guys like the content, I would really appreciate you guys subscribing, and I'm going to be making tons more Outriders content, but 86% aren't subbed, so I'd really appreciate if you guys could. Helps me out a lot. Just one button click. All right, with all of that out of the way, I'm sorry, let's just talk about it. So first off, obviously twisted rounds, nothing to talk about there. For our deception skill, you need to have at least one deception skill, because in our node, in our class tree node, which we'll take a look at in a second, every time you use a deception skill, it's going to give you 35% extra damage. Used to be 50%, but then they nerfed it to 35. This may get reverted or whatever, but for now it's 35%. The only other deception skill that I would ever consider using is Time Rift. The reason being is that Slow Trap just has way too long of a cooldown. It's 20 seconds. It's pretty decent, but it's way too long of a cooldown, and you want to have 100% uptime on that extra weapon damage. So because of that, we ignore Slow Trap. You can play Time Rift instead of Venator's Knife. It's a slightly longer cooldown. The main benefit of Time Rift is that it gives you some crowd control that the knife doesn't really give you. So it's particularly helpful against using it on elites, especially if you have a certain legendary equipped with it. However, I'm not currently using it, as Venator's Knife has a shorter cooldown, and I feel like I can use it more liberally. I can just throw it out whenever, get my damage buff all of the time. And also, with particular weapons, Venator's Knife is really good because the first shot after you, or while they're affected by it, you do double damage. So if you're using like a pump, knife is probably mandatory. If you're using a narrow variant slug, or a narrow variant full auto shotgun, I think it's very helpful. However, if you're using like a full auto slug variant, then it's not as helpful, because getting that extra damage for one shot isn't going to be as valuable. So knife is what I'm using. You can use Time Rift if you think you need it for the CC at the moment and you're using other mods with it. However, for now we're using knife. Lower cooldown helps us get extra damage, and honestly sometimes it acts as an interrupt, which is pretty nice. Pro tip: if you throw the knife and roll simultaneously, it animation cancels the knife, and you can maintain momentum while doing that. In terms of our movement skill, you need to have one movement skill for the same reason you need to have a deception skill. We're using Hunt the Prey. The only other option here is Borrowed Time. Real quick tangent, I don't think Borrowed Time is ever worth using. Main reason is that the cooldown is longer, and that while you're in the Borrowed Time state, before you reactivate it again, it's not going to put itself on cooldown. Therefore, you're going to have less overall uptime on your movement skill extra weapon damage. Also, Hunt the Prey is just the best mobility ability in the game. You can teleport behind walls, you get directly behind enemies, and you deal literally double damage when you're behind enemies and in close range. It also slows them. It also gives you a shield. Incredibly helpful. Not using Hunt the Prey, in my opinion, is kind of trolling with this build. Even with Borrowed Time giving you extra armor and stuff, you're still wasting a mod slot doing that when you could get the exact same benefit from using other stuff. Even when you use the firepower bonus while using Borrowed Time, it is a damage loss because you don't have Hunt the Prey, but also having Hunt the Prey is more of a defensive ability than you would think that it is. A lot of the time while I was progressing to CT15, there would be moments where there's just too many guys on me for me to deal with, and I would see some guy really far away in Narnia, teleport to him, boom, kill him, I'm safe, get my shield, etc. Ton of defensive ability there, but also with a certain legendary, this pretty much makes the whole build. So not using Hunt the Prey in favor for Borrowed Time is, in my opinion, the wrong play 10 out of 10 times. If you'd like using Borrowed Time, whatever, but there's a legendary that makes Hunt the Prey even better. So there you go. Almost forgot about the class tree. Everything is pretty basic here. The only difference is that I put in Deadly Shadow instead of Equilibrium here. I have enough cooldown reduction as it is. However, getting Deadly Shadow when you paired with this build, which I'm going for a lot of crits, and you'll understand why in a second, this just gives me a ton of additional damage. If you don't have Embalmer's Rage and you're not able to set this up currently, just keep on Equilibrium. Everything else is exactly the same, so don't really worry about it. Just screenshot this, implement it, whatever, doesn't really matter. Alright, so let's talk about weapon. I had to move my camera, by the way, because I was showing weapons earlier and it was blocking it, so move the camera. Second take. Anyways, let's just get into it. So, the main difference with this build and my previous build is that I got Embalmer's Rage. This is an incredibly good mod and probably the best one in the game for a Trickster. Reason being, pretty much all of your shots are going to be crits after you kill somebody. The internal cooldown on this doesn't matter that much because once you do enough damage, you're able to just mow through the map so quickly that you have nearly 100% uptime on this. And your damage is pretty good outside of having it anyway, but once you get the Embalmer's Rage buff, your damage skyrockets. You're able to take advantage of the crit damage multiplier, which previously you weren't really able to do, right? Because with the shotgun, a lot of the time it's difficult to land crits, but especially on a Trickster, when you're behind an enemy, you do extra damage, and you're not going to be critting them when you're behind them, right? You know sometimes how like when you're behind an enemy and you randomly get a crit, that's because by default you have 5% extra crit chance, right? And you see that number just completely doubled. Well, imagine that happening all the time, and that's pretty much what this build is trying to emulate. So Embalmer's Rage, I'd highly recommend trying this out. We're going to talk about some other variations because getting Embalmer's Rage took me actually 180 hours of playtime. By the way, it comes on the High Roller. We don't use that gun because breach variants are bad, so don't use the High Roller. You want to use it on something like the Death Shield here. And an alternative for Embalmer's Rage would be Killing Spree. We'll talk about that in a second. The reason that I want to use Death Shield, and this is the gun that I've decided to use even after testing all the other ones, is not only because it is a narrow variant, which is the best variant of shotgun, not only because it looks cool, but it comes with Weapon Life Leech, which honestly gives us an insane amount of survivability. I thought I wanted crit damage here instead, but honestly, the Weapon Life Leech is insane. Healing Received doesn't really help us out that much, but the Weapon Life Leech helps us get some leech that we otherwise don't have, that we otherwise would have to spec into. This is super helpful for our survivability since we are kind of paper as Trickster, so this just helps a ton. Also comes with close range damage that's very good, but the main thing is that it comes with Fortress. And the way the Fortress works is that you receive up to 43% damage bonus based on your armor. Not 43% of your armor, up to 43% damage based on your armor. I see a lot of people getting that backwards. So, you probably ask yourself, how much armor do you actually need to benefit from this? I've tested it. Turns out that the default amount of armor that you have, 50k at a level 50, is enough. Which leads me to believe that 1k armor is equivalent to 1% damage bonus. I can't confirm that, but what I can confirm is that getting extra armor past 50k does not improve your damage at all. I can't confirm that Fortress is giving us 43%. I've tested it. It's a little bit hard to do the math. It seems like it's giving 43%, so I'm just going to say that it is. But I've tested putting Damage Absorber on myself, doubling my armor to 100k, or using Mitigation from Death, getting ourselves up to 200k armor, and it doesn't affect our damage at all, which would mean that we are already at the cap of the damage for the Death Shield. So don't worry about your armor. You're already doing extra damage, and this pretty much is 2/3 the value of Killing Spree all the time, which is why this weapon is so insane. But also narrow variants are just way better than the other ones because it does so much damage per shot. But also what's really helpful is that the range is really good. So those stupid birds that are in the sky that you just can't do anything about when using like a pump or a bulwark, that's because your pump or bulwark is only at a 10-meter range, right? Or your pump or your slug, sorry, is only at a 10-meter range. Whereas a narrow variant is at a 17-meter range, nearly double, which allows you to just map things, which is insanely good. However, if you don't have both of these, this is definitely the best combo, and I happen to got one at 95k, which is incredibly lucky. If you don't have a Death Shield or Embalmer's Rage, Here's some alternatives for you. The easiest alternative is to get the Bulwark with T3 Bleed. The reason this is good is because the Slug variant is good, and also T3 Bleed, if you don't have a legendary helmet, this is going to help you get ammo back in the form of Vampiric Mag, which is really good, and then you pop either Killing Spree or Embalmer's Rage. Pretty much just view Embalmer's Rage as a better Killing Spree, and then you can view Fortress as a slightly worse Killing Spree, so all those are kind of interchangeable depending on what you have available to you. If you don't have the Bulwark, another good option is Funeral Pyre, because Shadow Comet does a lot of AoE damage, and then for the second mod, either Fortress, Embalmer's Rage, or Killing Spree, depending on what you have. And then there's other pumps that are okay. I wouldn't recommend using a pump. The reason being is that even if you one-shot everything, you're still capped on how fast you can clear things. Just because even if you one-shot things, you're still going poof, poof, right? It still shoots really slow. That also makes Embalmer's Rage a little bit worse. But on top of that, when you're using other guns like a full auto slug, if your damage scales up, your clear time is going to scale up as well, because per shot you're able to kind of one-shot things. But with a pump, if you're one-shotting things already, you're not able to really increase that time much more if you just get your damage up. This isn't really a technical explanation, but basically with a pump you're going boo, one kill, boo, one kill. But with a slug or a narrow, you're going boo, 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 and it's 1 kill, 2 kill, 3 kill, 4 kill. That's my highly technical explanation. I know NASA should hire me, but anyways, in terms of pumps, if you really have absolutely nothing else, Anomaly Effigy is okay because it helps with that AoE, comes with crit damage close range. Again, use the other mods in the second mod slot. And then we have Golem's Limb is also another pretty good pump. There's also, I believe it's called Enoch's Blessing, which is okay, but I would only recommend using that if you're using Embalmers, and then you keep the mod on it that gives you 50%. It's Gravedigger's Frenzy, gives you extra damage. But again, I would highly recommend against using pumps, and you can just go buy the Bulwark at the vendor, Tiago. So that's my recommendations for weapons. When it comes to your gear, priority number 1 is getting your ammo back. The best way to do that, the best mod for Trickster in the game, is Instant Reload. When you teleport, it instantly replenishes the magazine in your current weapon. This comes on the legendary helmet Ugake Otura. I deconstructed it because the roll on it is pretty good, but I was trying to, perfect my build, and perfecting the build required me deconstructing that. Highly recommend looking out for that. Pretty much any time you use Hunt the Prey, it's going to instantly replenish your entire magazine. This makes it to where we never have to worry about our ammo anymore. Even if you accidentally completely mess up, you can just have ammo just by Hunt the Preying. So even just if you were to just use a pump and only this mod, you would have no ammo problems ever. If you don't have this, I'd recommend using the Bulwark instead with T3 Bleed, and then pairing that with Vampiric Mag. That's pretty good to use regardless, even if you do have this. That pretty much gives you infinite ammo. If you don't have either of those things, the only other thing I'd recommend is using a pump with Perpetual Mobile on it, but then you're pretty suboptimal. Sorry for Snapchat. That's pretty much it for the build variations. In terms of everything else that you want, in terms of a best in slot scenario, you want firepower, cooldown reduction, and close range damage on every single piece of gear. Cooldown reduction just helps our knife and our Hunt the Prey be on a lower cooldown, not only so we can teleport across the map, but also gain benefit from the extra damage bonuses, and also letting us Hunt the Prey whenever we want to replenish ammo. I'm using Crit Stack. This is incredibly good and probably mandatory if you're using Embalmer's Rage. It just gives you a ton of extra, not only firepower, but also AP every time that you crit, and you're critting all the time with Embalmer's Rage. If you're not using Embalmer's Rage, don't use Crit Stack. Use like 10% shotgun damage instead. You could very easily just get Tanner's Hat and use this by default, and this is a very good mod. Sorry for the Discord message. For the chest piece, we're going bonus firepower, close range damage, cooldown reduction again, and then you want Captain Hunter and Bloodlust. Captain Hunter gives you just a ton of extra damage against elites. Bloodlust is probably one of the best mods in the game, but Captain Hunter is also incredibly good. And then we're using the Chronosuit pants. I would like to replace these pants to get some more cooldown reduction. Haven't gotten that, but it's really not that big of a deal. This is pretty much the only piece that I would replace. Firepower, close range damage, healing received, whatever. The main benefit of these is that we have ammo bargain. The reason that I'm using ammo bargain paired with the helmet, while the helmet does help us, ammo bargain pretty much makes it to where we can clear massive waves of ads without having to rely on Hunt the Prey all the time. This is probably mandatory if you're going to use this build, I think, because it just makes it so much easier and so much faster to clear things. It's only 20%. I think it should be buffed to a higher amount, but when you're using a pump shotty or you're using a narrow, it's not that big of a deal. It's only really not that great when you're using a slug because you have to shoot so many rounds. 20% seems to be good enough. And then I'm actually using Twisted Rounds to receive 30% crit damage. This gives a lot more damage than I thought that it was going to. but you only want to use this with embalmers. If you're not using embalmers, you could put on Stare into the Barrel instead, or you could put on Buckshot Shells for just extra damage. For our gloves, same story here with the rolls, and then you want Strong Twist and Personal Space. Strong Twist is just insane, 15% extra firepower, mandatory as well, and then Personal Space, 15% bonus to close range damage. That we're always going to have that as 15% damage, very good. And then on our boots, I also am missing cooldown reduction here, so if we had cooldown reduction both times, my Hunt the Prey and my knife would be just such a short cooldown, and that would be very nice, but without it, we're still doing perfectly fine. By the way, Skill Life Leech does not work with Anomaly Round, so don't worry about that. It does work with like Knife and stuff, but it doesn't work with Twisted Rounds. And then I have Sharp Eye here and Emergency Stance. So Emergency Stance is the only thing that I'm using for survivability on this build. If you're using a Bulwark, I would highly recommend getting the 50% Weapon Leech, 40% Weapon Leech after you kill an enemy. That's going to give your survivability a ton. However, the reason that we're using only Emergency Stance right now and that we're able to do okay with that is because currently it's bugged to where you get the Golem effect all the time, so you pretty much always have 65% extra damage reduction. If it wasn't bugged, I'd probably still use it because it's really good. However, I think Mitigation from Death would be the play. You can use those both in tandem with each other if you just want to be invincible, and then you replace something small like Personal Space or 30% crit damage from Twisted Fate, as a lot of these are really good. Sharp Eye is pretty much just a better Bloodlust. You just have to make sure to aim down sight when you're using it. You don't have to aim down sight that often because it lasts for 20 seconds and it stacks up to 3 times. And I just recommend kind of just like quick scoping every once in a while to get this buff up. But it's basically just better Bloodlust, insanely powerful. Emergency Stance is just really good in its current bugged form, but if you don't have that, you can just use Mitigation from Death. Damage Absorber is okay, but it's half as valuable in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, make sure that you're using Torment and Agony for cosmetic effect. No idea why that was swapped off. That's a misplay. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. Since I didn't mention every mod real quick, I want to mention a few alternatives. One being Anomalous Caliber. I don't think this is that great actually after some testing, but it is fairly decent. But it just pretty much gets outclassed by other things that are more consistent because not every single enemy is going to have resistance, so that's not that great. You can use additional mag if you're having a lot of ammo issues, however, I don't think it's really all that worth it. Blue Blood is pretty good if you feel like you're having some survivability issues and you don't have Leech by default, like I do on my weapon. It's only 10%, but it is something. Obviously, if you're playing Bleed build, you want to use Vampiric Mag, and then you can either use Blood Portion, or you can use Thirst for Blood for some weapon leech. Alternatively, in terms of like damage stuff, I'm pretty sure I mentioned most of them. Buckshot Shells is pretty much one of the only things that I don't have. In terms of tier 3, I guess I'm not using Stare into the Barrel. This is okay. The reason I don't use it is because you don't benefit from it all the time, and I'd much rather use things that are more consistent damage oriented, and I don't use that. In terms of Time Rift, and another one is very good if your damage is a little bit low and you need that extra burst potential to be able to Time Rift enemies, shoot them a whole bunch, and then keep shooting them so that you kill them within that period of time, so that you don't have to reload or anything like that. Another one that's okay is Pain Transfer. It does a little bit of AoE when you use Time Rift. I don't think it's that great, but if you're using a pump, it can be good to help you get some AoE damage that you otherwise don't have. And then in terms of another survivability mod that's very good that I previously was using was, this comes on, I think, the Chronosuit gloves, and you can just buy it from the vendor Tiago. While the skill's active, killing shots heal you for 15% of your target's health. So your targets are always going to have like a millions of health, right? So anytime you kill them, you pretty much just full heal. That's pretty good. I don't use it anymore because it's not consistent healing. And I think Leech is a little bit more consistent because this requires you to kill something. So if something isn't dying, you're dying. However, it's still really good. I don't think the Shield of the Fallen is good at all because Twisted Rounds is never going to end. Ammo Bargain we're using. Instant Reload is really good. This Borrowed Time thing is cringe because Borrowed Time is cringe. Death's Door, currently I don't think even works, but it's alright. That's pretty much all the things that are worth mentioning. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've tested pretty much everything on this character, and this is the conclusion that I have come to in terms of my build. I'm really happy with it. If I do change anything, it's pretty much just going to be my pants, or it's going to be like cosmetic, because that's pretty much the only upgrades I can get at this rate, or it's going to be getting cooldown reduction on my pants and my boots. Everything else is going to remain the same until they fix Golem, in which case I'll just add Mitigation from Death, and then I'll be fine. But yeah, that's all the recommendations that I have for you. Hopefully the video helped. If it did, drop a like, subscribe, and enjoy the gameplay. I'll see you later, guys. Gameplay for YouTube. Gotta get gameplay for YouTube. I know that sub 5 is possible. I have no idea how many attempts it's going to take me to do it. So we might just upload it not sub 5, but like close enough to sub 5. So we're gonna be kind of sweating, because in the video I did say sub 5, but you know, maybe we just say fuck it and it'll be good enough. Because I know that it is possible, but get 2-shot. Clown boy, get 2-shot. We're cracked out on advanced GG formula. That's how we get it. Go chill. Chill, dude. So not using 2 defensive mods, I'm gonna be honest, it's scary. It's okay though, because Golem is bugged. If I'm gonna play this like all the time on stream, because I'm not able to like pay attention all the time to what's going on while I'm on stream. So if I play this build a lot, I'll probably put on mitigation of death in place of like 1 damage mod. Our damage will be slightly lower, but I mean, does it really matter? Like we'll go from hitting these 1.3 millis to, you know, soft little 1.2s or something. Who cares? Yeah, I have to play fast, but also defensive a little bit. Yes, we finally got it, guys! Exclamation mark gun. How'd the subathon go? It went really good. Other than me basically not being alive at the keyboard for the last, you know, however long that was, it still went well. We paid our rent for the month. Let's go. That's about all anyone could ask for. And we got, you know, viewer records that I never thought were possible. Unlucky didn't have embalmers there, but that's okay. We'll have it for the next guy. No problem. I should be anti-canceling my knife, but I mean, who really cares, you know? Who's really counting? This is a moment where you gotta kind of consciously think about your embalmer stacks. Not stacks, but I guess getting it activated. Hey, what's up, Duz? Get out of here with that, dude. Get out of my lobby, kid. Kill him. Get embalmer's refresh. Oh, we go in for the 3-tap. He's never seen a bigger schlong in his life. Alright. Yo, Dennis with the tier 1. Appreciate it, man. I need to fix my alerts. Remind me to do that after this. 98.7 Darkness Charmer? Oh, I forgot Darkness Charmer existed. It's pretty good. It has, so it's a pump, so it's worse than, you know, this gun. However, Darkness Charmer does have Perpetuum on it by default, which is good. So, if you don't have other ways of getting ammo, Perpetuum by default's pretty good. But I mean, a 98k roll might help mitigate the fact that you don't have a lot of, that you miss a damage mod, I guess. So that's the only shotgun I think I forgot to mention. Guillotine is just not good because the perk revolves reloading. It requires reloading, I guess. And that's cringe. Did we just, like, destroy this map? Captain Hunter on? Yeah. First try, we're getting under sub 4, unless I randomly die here, which, I mean, that is possible being a Trickster player. That is for sure possible. This build is broken AF. Look, guys. I was telling you guys that when we got embalmers, Trickster would rise up. We're not quite Technomancers, right? That's high praise, but hey. I was telling you guys, and look what we've done. Look what we've done. We have proven that a 3-minute run is possible on Trickster if you're better than I am. Maybe if we get like copious amounts of advanced.gg exclamation mark sale, 30% off. We get an insane amount of caffeine in us. We'll become Fortnite Adderall gods. 360 no scope for the last go. Oh, get quick scoped, kid. Easy clap, 4-minute. Not even close, dude. That was like 40 seconds. You just looted high roller? Let's go, dude. Alright, alright. Everyone on YouTube, you guys like to see the loot, so we'll do it. 360 no scope, as is customary. Let's see what we got. In a group, your Trickster keeps stealing all your kills. A hashtag Trickster gang, dude. Alright. Probably all bad. 505 is your fastest time. Boomer speed, dude. Is that on Devastator though? Oh, we got another cosmetic, Torment and Agony. By the way, if you're not using these for cosmetics, you're trolling.